I'm excited for you guys to come back that came last week. And if you're new, welcome. This is my story, his glory. If you have not done so far, hit the like button, share, subscribe, and make sure you hit the notification button because I will drop a video every Sunday and try to do a vlog on Thursdays that shows my life with being a mother, a caregiver. It's a lot. But in today's episode, we're going to talk about basically my story, my testimony, growing up in Mississippi, dealing with childhood trauma, forgiveness, having an eating disorder, little things like that. And also breaking generation curses, because now that I'm older, I've learned that God, he tends to allow things, I don't say allow things, he drops little things on you so that way you can, you either can allow it to affect you, and or you can allow it to or you can defeat it. I am kind of defeating my break generation curses, so I hope you are too. But all right, so let me just start off. I grew up and raised in Mississippi. I spent basically 23 years of my life in Mississippi. I lived mostly with my mom, and I would go on weekends with my dad. And typically, if you're from Mississippi, if you're from Mississippi, let me know so that way I can say hey. If you're from Mississippi, like it's very slow here. It's very family oriented. A lot of like church, Sunday dinners, things like that. But my childhood wasn't like that at all. Well, it was something like that, but it wasn't like that. Definitely, I grew up, I have a big family. My mom have 13 brothers and sisters. My dad has a lot of cousins, things like that. But my childhood was not the typical like some Mississippians. I grew up basically, like I said, with my mom. I didn't meet my dad until I was 3 years old. I remember like it was yesterday. My mom, she is like, hey, Ashley, today you're gonna meet your dad. Me, yay! I meet my dad for the first time. Didn't even know what a dad was, but I knew I had one. So I meet my dad, and he had this white woman with him. I didn't know who she was at the time, but she was my stepmother. So I meet my stepmom and my dad, and I go with them for like literally 2 seconds. By the time they go down the road, I'm like, when? I want my mommy back. So I'm a Pisces, being really indecisive sometimes. They take me back to my mom. So they take me back to my mom, and I believe that by the time before they even got out of the yard all the way, I started crying for my daddy. I said, I want my daddy back. So my daddy went with my daddy, and from there, the rest is history. So I get to my dad's. I learned that at the time, I had 3 older brothers and an older sister. And did not know this at all. I did not know this until as I got older about, my dad and his shenanigans that he had back in the day. But my dad at the time had 3 baby mamas. He had my older brother and my older sister. They are 9 months apart by 2 different women. And then I'm part of I say hood triplets, which basically means kids that's the same age but by different women. I was part of the hood triplets. So I have my older brother who turned 31 in July. My second older brother, he turns 31 in December, and I turned 31 in February. So I'm the baby girl of all my brothers and sisters. So, I went from just it being me and my mom to me and my dad, and also my brothers, my stepmama, and all the things like that. And also, well, I'm gonna just bring it back. But my background, like when I was younger, it wasn't like I didn't grow up in church. You know, my great grandmother, she was an evangelist, but I still was not raised in a church. I can remember we went to church maybe like once growing up, once or twice between like 1 and 12. That's the only time that we went to church. I remember like going one time, and that was my mom. But hold on one second, my son is coming. Come on, bear. I want you. Yes. But yeah, so my my mom and I would live in a different part. My mom and I lived with my grandparents because they had this nice house. So we lived with my grandparents. We moved out. My mom had my brother and my sister, and she ended up their dad ended up living with us. So like I said, by the time I was 7 years old, things kind of started to go from bad to worse. But I remember this is when the molestation started. It was during October, Halloween, to be to be to give an exact day. Right, it's October now, but it was during Halloween. I came from school and it was just him and I. I asked him where mommy at. He said that she is going to the doctor with your brother. At the time, I did not know that my younger brother is diagnosed with a learning disorder and he's bipolar schizophrenic. So I mentioned that in my last video. If you have not seen it, go back and check that video out. So we end up, well, he tells me that she's the doctor. So I asked him, where Christina at, which is my sister. So he was like, she's going with your aunt to trick or treat, this and that. And I was like, okay, cool. In a way, I was kind of sad because I wanted to go trick or treating too. So, all right, so that night it rains, and me not thinking that this man would do anything to me, I asked him just basically could he sleep with me because I was scared. My sister and I growing up, we always shared the same room. So I was like, can you sleep with me? Can you sleep with me because, my Christian's not here. And I've been knowing him, my sister, like I was 7 years old. My sister at the time was like 5. So basically he's been in my life for about 2 years, basically 5 years of my life. So he says yes. And I didn't expect what he did. Basically, he put his hands in my pants and he molested me. He molested me and from there things just got worse over the years. Like this man would he would beat on me. He actually on my face. I have a which one? I have makeup on. I have a makeup right now, right there. He would beat on me. I've seen him throw his own son against the wall. I seen him beat my mom with a belt. Like Lisa, it was always something. Like we've called the cops on him several times growing up. He shot at one of my uncles. He actually didn't get pepper spray. It was just always something, like something. I know at one time before I was at school and I did not know this at the time. I was at school playing, get home, he's like, oh, you're playing with boys now. I was like, huh? I'm like, how do you know that? Mind you, my dad house is I grew up a bunch of brothers. Right now, growing up, I have 6 brothers and 2 sisters. One brother is by my mom, and the other 5 is by my dad. And I have boy cousins. I have uncles. I have uncles that maybe a couple years older than I am. Or I have one uncle that's 5 days. One great uncle that's 5 days older than me. So I grew up with a bunch of boys. So that's kind of all I knew because I didn't grow up. I have sisters, but the age difference. So I was like, yeah. And I tell you, this man flew off the rails. He flew off the rails as if I told him that I murdered someone or I cheated on my homework or something. I cheated on my test. He flew off the rails. I was like, okay, all right. So, he beat me and like I said, left a scar on my face. Things like that. It was a lot of beating, a lot of punishments, it could be petty punishments too. If I because what I was going through, my grades actually started to fail a lot in school. Like it went from like an A to like a C and D, and I was hate bringing my progress, like my homework home or my progress report because of him. And like if I could get like a C, he would like make me stand on the wall like for hours on one foot. Like it was like military style stuff. I'm like, oh my goodness, it was awful. And then not only that was happening in my mom house, things were happening also at my dad house. Um, that's where I basically picked up porn. You know, my dad, he watched porn a lot, and he would have it like on the TV. Like my son could be going to work, and he can come get me one. He can come get me from my mom's house to spend a weekend with him and with them. And my brothers can be like going to one of my aunt's house or at school, and there be porn on all the TVs. And I'm like, okay, me not thinking, it felt weird, you know. I'm like, okay, all right, well, why is porn like, on all TVs? I don't know. I was like, okay, cool. And then also my brothers, they were like, they had a habit of going through my dad's and stuff. They used to show me like, they used to show me uh, um, videos. My dad and them had this habit of like recording themselves doing stuff. So like we seen like videos of my dad smoking weed, and then you know they they found his porn stash, and they like had porn everywhere. It was like it was just a lot, and that right there definitely like struck something inside of me. And also now that I'm older and I'm realizing some things of why I did certain stuff, I realize now when you touch a child, you basically open up like spirits to invade their body. And definitely the spirits was all in my body. It was getting a lot of my body too. It was like it was I promise you y'all, my life was just full of sex, sex, sex. And like it was always something like with sex. Like, I remember being like in kindergarten, seeing like kids kiss and during nap time, and I did not know this until recently. Like I mentioned before, when you molest a child, it opens up different spirits to enter their bodies, and like that struck a curiosity, homosexual curiosity in me as well. So I started like I had a babysitter, and she had like a daughter. She was an old woman. Her daughter. Her and I would like I won't say necessarily mess around, but her and I kind of touch each other. So like things like that definitely was part of my life growing up. And then yeah, it's just certain things. I can't really just go into details of everything, but because it would be like an hour, 2 hour video of me talking about every particular part of my life. But it was definitely full of like sex and pornography, and that's where I learned through pornography. I learned about masturbation, so I started masturbating at a really young age. Well, around 13, 14. Okay, let me just go back. I'm gonna just go back on that right there, okay? I'm gonna talk about that right there. But yeah, so from 7 to 12, I was molested by my sister and brother's dad. And I did not know at the time, he was molesting my sister as well. And I did not know this until one night I was sleeping and I rolled over and he was in our room. And I was like, why is he in our room? And something just didn't feel right because like it just didn't feel right. So then I remember my sister had hurt her legs the day before. But as a parent, I understand. You want to check on your children at night, especially, if they get hurt. That's how I am. If my son get hurt or something, or if he's sick, I want to like do like overnight maintenance while he sleep. That's just the mommy in me. So like, but the way he was moving his hand and standing there was the part that kind of like blew me. And he had his back turned against me, so I couldn't really see exactly what he was doing on the other side. So I was like, okay. And me and my sister, honestly, to this day, we have not really discussed it, but I know it happened to her and she knew it happened to me. And I feel bad. I really feel bad that it was her dad. You know, it was her dad that basically caused the pain in our family. You know, even though I had my dad, it just, I just feel like some type of like, I don't say weight. I just feel very, very sad. Just really feel very sad about the situation. You know, just feel real sad. But all right, but at 12 years old, like I said, it finally ended. My mom called him on top of me. She called him actually. She called him one night, and I actually have a letter that I had to write to the courts or the police officers. And my stepmom, she has this letter, and I asked her to give me a copy of it. So I'm gonna read some of it to you guys, so y'all can see. All right, so as you can see, this was written in April 7th, 2002, and I'm gonna read some of it to you, okay? All right, it says, my mom's boyfriend name is blank blank. I don't want to give his name out because I have forgiven, I haven't forgot, but I have forgiven him because I've learned as well that hurt people hurt people. When you were hurt, you will hurt other people. I don't know exactly what this man had going on in his life, but I guess he had to take some of that I don't know. I don't know. I don't want to really know. I kind of do because that way I can piece the puzzles together, because as I've learned, as I've, I guess, done personal development and learned about psychology, listen to podcasts, I now understand why we do things. So, you know, either way, I do want to know what happened in your lifespan where you had to do that. What happened to you where this had to happen to, you know, I don't know. But I say, all right, had sex with me Saturday around 1 o'clock. I had on a bra, underwear, shorts, overall, t-shirt, and a long sweater. Mind you, this is April. April's not really cold. It's really hot. Even now, in December, I refuse to wear all those clothes at night. It'd be hot. I don't like being hot. And for me to sleep and all of that, I just feel like it's an indication that something was wrong. Okay, when he came in to unbuckle my overalls, but I tried to stop him. It did? Yeah. All right. All right, guys. I have a kid, and I was on mommy duty for a little bit. All right, so yeah, let me finish this letter quick. All right, so when he came in, he tried to unbuckle my overalls, but I tried to stop him. He went out of the room, and he came back 5 minutes and told me to act right, or he was going to work me in the field. I will admit, he definitely taught me a lot about slavery, introduced me to roots. Roots scared me, especially with the whipping thing, because I was like, oh, that looks horrible. Those marks looks horrible. And I don't know what, I feel like how he beat me was based off that. I don't know. I knew the consequences, you know, if I didn't act right. So I was scared, but I just laid there. He came in my room anyway. He unbuckled my overalls, and he had on a red shirt and red underdrawers. He tried to put his penis inside me, but I wouldn't let him. I moved around and told him to stop, but he wouldn't. He'd been doing this for 5 years since I was 7 years old, which just goes into details of when it happened, how it happened, things like that. All right. Anyway, that Saturday morning around 2 o'clock, my mom had to use the bathroom. She noticed our door was open. We used to live in a trailer, and my mom and his room was on one side of the trailer, and my sister and I room is in another trailer, other side of the trailer. But the bathroom was by our bedroom, and I would generally sleep with the door closed because I just knew what would happen if I just didn't want him near me. All right. So she noticed the door was open. She turned on the light and she said, "What the hell are you doing?" He jumped up and made an excuse while he was in there, and he said that he was untangling my headphones. Sometimes I used to sleep with headphones in, but that day I didn't have any. And then had an excuse that he had a leg cramp and that why he was over me. They went out. I think they argued, but I'm not sure. 5 minutes later, he comes in and told me to tell my mom, no, mama, nothing. That morning, I told my mama good morning, and she told me to sit down. She asked me what was he doing, and I told her. Um, then she went out and called him a liar, and he said he didn't do it. We went, my mom and I. Okay, I think we were outside at the time. I said we went back inside the house and he followed us. My mom was very upset. He grabbed my arm and he whispered in my ear to tell her not to tell. He whispered in my ear to tell her that he didn't do it. I started to cry. I told her he did do it. After she told me to, then she asked me did he put his thing inside of me, and he kept telling me to tell her that he didn't. But I just stood there. I went to look at TV. He came over to the chair where I was sitting and told me that he didn't go to jail. Before we left, my mom asked me, did he put his finger inside of me? I told her that he tried, which really upset my mom. And from there, we went to the hospital. That process of just going to the hospital, I still remember. It was the longest process ever. They left me in the room by myself. And I just remember just them doing like I guess a pap smear situation on me. And that was the one of the most uncomfortable thing that, besides being molested at 12 years old, very uncomfortable things to happen. And then they called my dad. My dad came, and from there I went to my dad that weekend, and by Monday I was back at school acting like nothing had happened. And it was I don't even know. I really don't know. It gives me anxiety thinking about that. Really, I don't know. It was bad. But yeah, like what I want to say. Yeah, it was bad because I went to school like on Monday like if nothing happened. My mom, I don't know if my mom and I even talked about that, because I feel like there's so many. As I've gotten older, because at the time I didn't have no one to talk about. Say, oh, this happened to me, or oh, my dad did this to me too, or I know somebody who did that to me. I just felt alone. I felt alone as if, I felt alone that it only happened to me. So I grew up, I was very, very upset. I was alone. I was alone anywhere I go at school because I was just so angry with what's going on, what was happening at home. I wasn't sure, of what to say or what to do. But yeah, I didn't have that at the time. I didn't have no one to talk to about my issues, what was happening. Like my sister, she ended up getting a little bit of counseling after all that, but I didn't get no counseling at all. I guess because I acted like I was okay. I didn't. My sister, she's a crier. I wasn't a crier because like I was bullied in school. So I taught myself, you know what? Even now, like I wish I was a crier now, but at the time I was like, I'm not a crier because growing up, I was in fourth grade, I was picked on, I was bullied, and I used to cry a lot, and I felt like a crybaby. So I was like, you know what? From now on, I'm not gonna cry because no one's gonna see me cry. But now I wish I was a crier because I feel like people that cry are the most strongest people in the world. But yeah, so I didn't have no one to talk to during that time. But now that since he was then out of the picture, I could say things got better, but not really. It really didn't because I was still dealing with things my daddy, the porn and this and that. Just it was just I just it didn't get better. I was unsure of myself, but we honestly this is when I started going to church. After he left the picture, my mom joined the church not far from where we lived at, and I got baptized. I think at 13, I got baptized because I really wanted to sing in the choir, and I did what typical 12, 13-year-olds did. I sung in the choir. I went to church. Did I really pay attention in church? I learned some things, but no, not really. I got interested in boys. There was a boy in my church that I really, really liked. Like used to love him and like stare at him all day. But yeah, I was just a hot mess. I was a hot mess. And I was unsure of who I was just in general, because like most girls have like their mom to look up to inspire them. I didn't have that. I didn't have that mom to inspire me. So I kind of guess I looked up to my stepmom, because she was like a second to what, because she was my dad. She was who I knew. And also I was dealing with like self images. Like I remember being like 13, 14 years old, passing out from hunger, because my aunts, they used to like, compete with weight, in the African American community. For some reason, saying, oh, you gain weight, or, you're, you something, but talk about weight is something that older people do or I discuss. I really don't know. But when my aunt, I remember when my aunt says, "Ooh, Ashley, you're gaining weight." I was 13 years old. Puberty started hitting. I was kind of filling out. I wasn't even big. I was just, getting a little bit of hips, getting boobs. Now I'm 30 years old and I'm shaped like a little boy. I still have no boobs, but that back then I was like, I'm getting weight, and then hearing how they talk to each other about weight, I started freaking out, and I stopped eating. I was not eating like I supposed to. I was, not drinking water. I was not eating really at all. And and I passed out in church one day, and I had to they had to take me to the hospital and put me on a drip, because I just was not eating like I was supposed to, because I was worried about gaining weight, because that right there. So I was dealing with a lot of issues, like self issues, even, I said, uh, knowing who I was, like growing up, I didn't. My mom, she was there, but she was mostly working most of the time, and like she was very helpful in certain situations. But I did not know who I was as a black girl, and I used to get all everywhere I went. I always got asked, "Are you mixed? Are you this? Are you that?" And I would be like, "No, I'm not mixed, but my brothers are mixed, this and that." And that was a continuous thing. Like now it stopped, but actually, like 2 months ago, I got asked, "Was I something else?" But it just like it was asked, "Are you mixed?" So I dealt with like, am I black enough? Or I grew up in a very very diverse almost when I'm ever at my daddy house, and I have my step family, which is like my stepmom's mom and her sisters, which I love them dearly. I've been knowing them since I was 3 years old, so I love them dearly. Like they're family to me. But it was just weird, just constantly getting asked that question. So I dealt with a lot of, like self worth and knowing who I was as a person. But like I said, even though he was gone, the situation didn't get better at home wise. Like we didn't. I did not know our money situation, pre him, but after him, it's like stuff went down the drain. Like we were poor, super poor. My mom barely had money. She always borrowed money from people at church. She would always get these loans. Um, um, she would bring food. God knows. He knows. This is also what I want to talk about. He knows your situation, and he plants things in your life that you don't understand then, but I understand now. Like he knew my mom and her situation, and he knew that she probably wasn't the best cook, or she didn't know how to cook, but he made sure that she worked somewhere that had food so she can bring home to her kids. But my mom worked at the high school where I was attending school at, in the cafeteria, and she would bring food from the cafeteria that we had for lunch for dinner. So like we would have to wash clothes by our hands. I got bullied. Like it was awful. It was awful, but it made me, you know, made me who person I am now. And now I have more sympathy, you know, sympathy for people, understanding that, you know, not everybody comes from a family with money. Not everybody has, you know, have everybody comes from a family with money, and sometimes you have to do what is necessary to, you know, get by. So yeah, so from 12 to 18, things this when I was in high school, things just it didn't get better. I got my first job, first boyfriend, and I just dealt with a lot of like self worth, and not knowing myself. I was having sex with guys who I felt deep down didn't deserve me, but because I was needing love from somebody, I was just doing it. And you know, try to fit in with the crowd and try to be cool. I was a hot mess. I really admit I was a hot mess. I was a hot mess. But God, He has shown me some things that it makes sense now. Me being molested, if you're someone that's been molested, just know that God sees you. He sees your pain. God knew your situation before you even knew your situation. When he created you in your mama's belly, He knew the obstacles that you will go through. So, you know, as I've learned throughout the years, God also gives us free will, and we're predestined. And with our free will, you either can do better, or you can still follow the same cycles that you always have, or someone in your family has. And with me, I'm here to break generational curses. And I think even though I don't did want to, I can't say I'm glad it happened, but it did happen. I learned things don't happen to you, it happened for you. And what they happened for me, it taught me that now I have a son, that I will make sure I do within my power to teach him about his body. Because back in the day, they didn't, you know, I don't know now, some parents still don't. They didn't talk about like body parts to children. They didn't go over the rules of like, when you go to school, now you are in a different atmosphere. Or when you go to somebody's house, if they touch you, let me know. My mom didn't do that for me. My mom didn't say, now that you are a certain age. Well, at this point, I feel like 3 is the age to talk about. Hold on one second, guys. My son. Thank you. Go throw it away. Thank you. Yeah, don't do my chin. But yeah, like if you know, yeah, it's good to talk to children about, you know, my son, he's 3. No, he's 4. I'm sorry, he's 4, and he knows that his body parts. He knows what's on my body parts, and he knows not to touch me or touch anyone else that has. If it's not his body, don't touch it. If someone touch your body, don't touch it. Don't touch nobody else's body. Keep your hands to yourself. And that's something that kids should know, personally, from my experience. And because of that, because what happened to me, I now can educate my son, my story of why certain things happen. So then, all right, what else want to talk about? And yeah, and also, this year I forgave my mother. Nick. Fix the computer, please. Sorry, guys. I told you I'm a caregiver. I'm a mother. So there's putting these videos because I ain't got time to try to like stop videos. That's exhausting. I already did it once, a few times already in this video. I'm not gonna keep doing this. No. Nick, help Harley, please. Help Harley with the movie. Yeah, it's on laptop. On laptop? Yeah. A little bit. A little bit. Yeah. I've learned as well, you gotta negotiate with your children so you have time to talk as well. But yeah, so I also learned about forgiveness, forgiving your parents. It's very important to forgive your parents. I had to do that last year for my mom because my mom, like I said, things didn't get better whenever dude left our house. It actually got worse. My mom didn't really cook. She didn't really clean. Our house was a filthy, nasty mess. I never invited no one over at school. We would go to school stinky because my mom she didn't have the money to even wash clothes. We would have to wash clothes on our hands. It was just like, it was just not nice. But you know, I feel like with everything that had happened to us, my mom, that guilt was eating my mom up inside. So I had to do what necessary for her and myself to say, hey, I forgive you. Don't think what had happened to me is your fault. It had to happen. Now I know. Now I know what goes on in the world. Close the door, Nick. No. Close the door. Okay, cool. Thank you. All right. So, yeah, I forgot my chain of thought already. Yeah, I had to forgive my mom for, I had to let her know that what happened to us was not your fault. It had happened to us so that way, my sister and I, so that way we can share our story with our children. My sister has 2 boys now. Me being molested has helped me talk to my niece, my older niece by my older sister was molested. And one day I brought it up to her and saying, hey, I heard that this happened to you, this and that. And she was like, I didn't even mention it to you. I used to feel kind of embarrassed talking about it, but I'm glad you brought it up. I'm like, yeah, I'm your niece. Like, you know, I'm your auntie. And I'm here to talk to you about all kinds of things that you feel uncomfortable talking to your mom about. I'm here. I know you. I know how you feel. I know how you feel because like it definitely did some damage to me. And yeah, just yeah. And you talked to my mom. I had to tell her forgive her and that it wasn't her fault. And you know, it is what it is. I now have a little boy, and I'm doing whatever is necessary to break generational curses because my mom was molested, and maybe her mother was molested. Those things can be passed down. And for me, because I'm willing to talk about my pain, talk about what had happened to me, I feel like I'm breaking that generational curse because like no one talked to me about these things. Even after I got molested, nobody said, hey, this happened to me. What, Harley? Hey, okay, cool. All right, go ahead. Sorry guys, I told you, there'll be a lot of, you know, houses because I'm a mother and caretaker too. But yeah, like it had God just has been like over the years, you know, 5-6 years has just shown some things to me, you know. 18, I actually started smoking weed. 18, 19, 19, 20, I started taking pills. X, that was not for me at all. The ones that do it all the time, I don't know how you do it, but okay. Yeah, so I did X a little bit. I was partying, having sex. I would have guys to talk to me. Some of them, I'd be like, okay, cool. I would give in to them. And some of them, you know, probably were liking me and want to be with me. But because I was dealing with my own self-worth and not sure of, just not trusting them or not trusting myself or just be unsure of like a lot of things, I just didn't feel comfortable with men for the longest. I just wouldn't because I was hurt by them for so long. Even to the point at one part of my life from like 20, 21, 22, whatever, I wasn't even talking to no black guys. I was like, no, I'm good. With looking at my dad, how he has done to my stepmom back in the day, this and that. And then also, let me just go back to it right there with generation curses as well. My dad, when he was 13 years old, he was molested by this woman. She was probably like 17, 18 years old. I don't care what anybody say. You don't introduce boys to sex. I don't care if they're 13, 14, 15 years old. No, don't do that because you don't know what kind of spirits you're letting inside of their bodies. Just same thing happens to me. Like spirits can go into girls' bodies. Same thing happens to boys. And I feel like that right there came from having sex at a young age at 13 years old. Because my dad, his mom actually passed away. My grandmother passed away when my dad was 4 years old. So he never got to meet his mom. He was raised by my great grandmother, who was she was an evangelist, and my grandfather was a pastor. But they had children of their own, which was 13, 14 years older than he was, and he had other cousins, and he was just surrounded by a lot of stuff, and him being touched at a young age, he ended up, getting this woman pregnant, and I didn't even know I had a older brother. So I was 13 years old. By this time, this boy was grown, full grown. I'm like, oh, we have another brother. Another brother? Wait. No, we don't. Yes, we do. No, we don't. Yes, we do. His name is blank. I'm like, I don't know who that is. I just know blank, 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 blank as my brother. They're like, no, that's your brother. Then I seen this man. I was like, oh yeah, he's my brother. He looks too much like my daddy. Yeah. So yeah, and those generation curses can creep up on you. Cause like I didn't even not know about this until this man. I found out I have a whole new brother that my dad was basically touched as well. So these curses. Oh, shh. Thank you. These generation curses can like creep up with you, especially if you don't share them with someone, with your kids, so that way they know how to handle those curses. And you have to talk to your children about these things, because the enemy is busy. He is so busy out there, y'all. Yeah, people forget that we're born in the world of sin, and sin don't care if you're the pastor's daughter. They don't care if you 1 month old. He don't care if sin don't care if you marrying someone that's I don't know, stepmother and son. I don't know. It don't care. The enemy is busy. So you gotta be very mindful to share your story, because I've learned as well that as long as the enemy can keep you silent, he is winning, and you don't want to win, and you want to break those generation curses, because if you want to build that business, if you want to get out of your own way, you want to start talking. And I'm here to talk until the enemy say, girl, shut up. I'm like, whatever, God got me, because he brought me here for a reason. And there's this podcast I listen to called Patrice Washington, Chase Purpose, Not Money. And she had a guest star on her podcast, says, you're willing, I'm trying to remember how it goes. You are as big as your business will grow as long as you're willing to be vulnerable. I think how it go. And sometimes, because even someone, I used to be a brand ambassador for this company, and we're having this conference, this call with our upline, and she said something like the same thing. She's like, I don't know if you're going through something, if you experienced something in your past, but you need to dig deep to find out what it is, so you can remove it, so that way you can reach the goals that you want to move. And that hit a trigger for me. It was like, I'm talking to me, because I was still, I was starting to get into personal development with this company. It just helped me with like a lot of things, a lot of issues that I had. I was doing some work, but I did not know deep of what it was. And like I mentioned before, for some reason I keep saying podcast, even when I pray. Maybe I should be doing a podcast. I don't know. I have thought about it. I have somebody in mind to do it with me, but she gotta get on her age. She has some healing to do herself before we can actually do it. Because I think it'd be very, very, we're two Pisces, two different people, but I think it'd be very fun. I'm the more logical one, and she the turnip queen. But yeah, so like, if you want to definitely do some soul searching if you are someone that has been hurt, because I know how it feels to be hurt, and it doesn't feel good. And I probably lost probably some other stuff that I can't even remember, because I've been through a lot, so much. You know, I didn't even mention them in the homosexuality thing, which is going to be another video. I dealt with homosexuality, which that's going to be my next video regarding my son's father and other things that I went through with him, cheating as well. He didn't cheat, I cheated. So like things like that. So yeah, that's it, guys. Yeah, that's it. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you like it, subscribe, share it, hit the notification, and I hope to see you guys next time. Bye.